Now, as you can see, I've got a basic sketch here on the canvas, and I put a little bit of clear gel and white up there at the top. So now I'm going to take a soft bluish color. That'll work. And I'm going to just drop that in right in my sky area. That clear gel and white mix that I put up here. And I didn't do it over here. This is dry, just here. You can kind of see because my brush is a little bit dirty. That gives me just a little bit of blend ability to this background area. Because I applied the purpley color for a drawing with my lines here, because I applied it before doing the clear gel and white, when I go over it, see it's still kind of stained on the canvas there. You don't lose it. Same with the trees. So now I've got just a very similar kind of a soft blue. Maybe to this I'll add just a little umber. Of course, you make a soft blue by adding red to it. Not much, but just a little. And then a little bit of that umber in it. That's just nice right there. Let's test it up here. See, pastel color. Yeah, that's about right. Now, you know, that's almost half a shade darker than I'm going to go just a little tiniest bit lighter. And I'm just going to tap in the background trees. That's all this is supposed to look like, background trees. Some of these you can't really see when you're painting them. It's not till you get back that you'll see them. It's the little things that make a difference. You know, those things that nobody really notices, but you notice them, and the overall painting really makes a difference. Now I'm going to underpaint just the dark side of the barn or shed or whatever. I mean, who knows what I'm going to call it. I'm going to probably name it 300 different things by the time we're done with this, but whatever it is, we're painting the dark side with this nice soft brown. And it was like a brown with a purple mixed into it. Very pretty. I think it works. And every time I reload, I'll do something just slightly different. And I also don't, tell you the truth, I don't want it that dark. Maybe I'm going to lighten it up just a little. I want contrast, but I don't want crazy contrast everywhere. I want little pockets of contrast, if that makes sense, in this painting, because it's winter and it's softer. I don't know. I may change all of that, but at least you kind of know what I'm thinking as I do this. Make sure you get your perspective correct. Before we go too far, let's take a look at the paintings that you guys did of my last one. Actually, it was the live stream, and that was a lot of fun, so hopefully you enjoyed that. And maybe we'll do some more of those in the future. Now I'm going to add the shadow. This is the underpainting really to the shadow part of the highlight side, if that makes sense. So we'll still put our highlights on top of this. So it's the underpainting. And this will end up, what we leave will kind of end up being the cracks and whatnot in between the boards. We'll probably add extra cracks, but a lot of this is going to be just all we need, just some underpainting, quick highlight. This is a large building, so obviously we need more detail than if it was way in the background. But you'll find that if you just sort of take it bit by bit, it's not in any way difficult. That is a door, and I want to make that look like a door. It's going to be darker, because if our light's coming through like this will be a darker door. So it'll be like the inside of that door opened, if that makes sense. I'm not sure the perspective is just right. Here's the thing. I can do perspective. And, you know, I've been doing it for so long that I can just do it by feel. But I'm not always totally correct. And that's when I hide it with trees and whatnot. And that's totally okay. Of course, I suggest drawing it on a piece of paper, or like I did, drawing it on the canvas. Then you can kind of get your perspective worked out. But once you get a brush in your hand, it's a little tough. But that's why I like to paint ragged old buildings, because it's more fun. Less technical stuff to mess around with. Now I'm just putting a little bit of this background color in the doorway there. You think, well, why bother doing that? Well, check this out. Check this out. Take a little brown and black, dark, very dark color. You know, maybe a little purple to mix in with that as well. But if I take this color and drag it down here, then it looks like the door is open. Obviously the door is open, but check this out. If I leave little gaps, then I can actually see the outside through the barn or the shed, or whatever you would call it. Yeah, that's kind of neat. See, that you could probably do that afterward, just slide down a little color, but that's kind of neat. Let me make that a little smaller, so it's not quite as big. We're going to punch just select areas of high contrast and then leave an overall subtle painting, but it won't look flat because of these areas of high contrast. And you'll see more as we go. Of course, you've already seen the thumbnail, so you have a much better idea as to what I'm talking about than I do. It's an advantage. Now I'm gonna put some snow here on this roof. It's pretty straightforward. This is just the underpainting for it. Put it on thick, you know, because you can just simply take a shop towel and wipe it away. In fact, wouldn't be a bad idea to stop here in a moment and do that to the entire little building. I've not done that yet. It would definitely be good. If you're new around here and you're not used to doing that with your oil paintings, oh, it makes a giant difference. You'll see that. It makes a giant difference. Actually, that roof needs to come up. Get the bulk of the painting in. And then don't worry about the little stuff. Get the little stuff later, get the big stuff in first. Sometimes I think we can get bogged down in the details way too early. Detail toward the end. Now I'm putting in just a background. It's not unlike that. Maybe a little, here's my color. What color is it? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I'm just picking something random up off the palette. How do you know it's the right color? Because it was random. There we go, yeah. The reason that I did that is because I'm about to put in my tree, and I didn't want it to just be a solid mass all the way up. Although it's going to be very solid, not 100% solid. There's my color. That's a nice color, and it's not just black. It's actually all my dark colors except the sap green. I'm not sure why it's out there, but it is. Okay, now here we go. Let's go ahead and get some of this tree area painted in. Evergreen trees here for the most part. Yeah, maybe a couple of old leaf trees, deciduous trees in there, but it'll just be the tree trunks. I don't know if we're going to do that or not. We'll see. Now here, these are big pockets of snow, and I'm going to attempt to paint around them for the purposes of, you know, not having to contend with all that dark paint. It's going to be way easier. Probably mush this into the canvas with a shop towel in the next step, but I'm not going to do anything more until I get this barn finished, or shed, house finished, whatever it is, finished, right? Because even now I'm kind of going out of order, but I just need to cover up these big sections of a white because they're going to be very dark and I don't want to see them white. You know what I mean? They'll throw my eye off as I highlight this. That is not good. I'm going to get a lot of my canvas filled in now so that my eye sees it clearly. All right, pretty much just repeated the same process over here, only I didn't bother leaving blank spots. So now the most important, actually don't need my palette to put that down. The most important part of this whole painting was just taking a shop towel. I personally like to crumple it, and it gives me a nice texture on the shop towel. If you missed that last tip video, I strongly recommend going to check it out because you'll learn so much if you're at all new to this kind of painting with a shop towel or rag. Don't use, I say this every time, but just in case there's one person, if I save just one new person from learning this lesson on their own, it would be worth mentioning that every time I paint. But don't use a paper towel because best case scenario, you'll have, you know, somebody's brand imprinted in your painting, like embossed in the painting. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you get all kinds of fibers and lint in your canvas, and it's impossible. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's impossible to pick it all out. It's terrible. I don't mind a brush hair. I've been to museums and galleries and looked close at the paintings, and oh, they've got all kinds of brush hairs in those expensive paintings. The trees do have a tendency to grow. So when you're painting the darks, paint them smaller than you want. Now I'm going to drop in some snow areas, some shadow snow here on my blank spots and some sort of blank spots that I created there by wiping that area off really good. To tell you the truth, we probably didn't need to leave blank spots at all because that was so effective right there, you know? But just for the sake of doing it, there it is. I'm good with that mixing a little with that nice pretty underpainting because it's not just black, it's kind of a deep purple really. This is a pretty straightforward little painting today, isn't it? It's not overly complicated. I'm excited to see your version of it though. It'll be quite fun. I've got just a little bit of off-white here on the filbert brush, and I'm going to just put a little snow, our first snow highlight right here on the roof of this little shed. And I don't know that we need a whole lot. I'm doing just a little bit of paint. You know, I still haven't got around to wiping this off yet. I think it's okay. Just the roof. I don't need it to be like the brightest thing ever. Just, that's good enough. If you're stroking like that and it was becoming quickly very much just dark purple, then you would for sure want to stop what you're doing and go ahead and wipe it off. All right, just finishing up wiping off, not a lot, but just a little bit of that paint there. Now let's get a nice dark color going. And I'm going to just, let me start right here at the top and just sort of drag downward and create a couple of little cracks here in the boards. We do want to make individual boards as much as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but enough individual boards that it looks good, you know, that it looks normal and detailed enough for the distance that we have it at. Nice. You can always highlight. In fact, I think we need to highlight over top of these, but it's good to get the dark cracks in first. There. And the key to this is wiping the canvas off so that you can get these details, because see, I've got a lot more to go on top of this. This is not the only thing. And if I want to get all that detail in, I've got to make sure there's just a little bit of paint there to work with. Now I'm just going to put on a little bit of highlight here to the front side of the barn. It doesn't need much, just enough to sort of let it sparkle and stand out some. I don't know, would this, hard to say, would that cast much of a shadow? It might cast a little shadow here. We'll think about that. Maybe I won't highlight there until I figure that out. Now I'm going to place on here some snow patches. Again, just like everything else, if you need to wipe it off with a shop towel, that's great. I want mine to mix. I don't know that I want it too bright. It doesn't need to be like pure white. Some of this is kind of still supposed to be kind of shadowy, since we got this little shed is just behind it. There's some light sneaking through. It'd be like this really hitting some here, but then like this would be kind of in shadow. Some of this, you know, you really have to just sort of put it down and figure out what you're doing as you go. Then right here, maybe a little snow, little highlight just right there in the big section of that. Just smush it in, see, and then blend it. Go back and even with just a clean brush, just wiping it off on the paper towel, you can kind of blend some of this. That's nice. You know, we always go back at the end with the liner brush and put a sparkle on it. But if you hold back just a little until we get everything in, I think that's probably good. Now, right along these ridges here, I'm going to place in just a little bit of highlight. Okay, this is dry here. And so this is going to take a long time to scrub in, but go ahead and just scrub it in anyways and resist that urge to put some clear gel down, because it'll be far, far easier when you go to blend it and put details on if you don't have that extra slippery paint there to contend with. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can lay just some of it down with a very, very clean 1-inch brush or something like that. You can just blend it. See this? Excellent. Doesn't have to be pure white. In fact, pure white's maybe not too desirable. Grab some shadow tones and just splash your shadows in and around. Don't overdo. Just some here and there. Not too dark. Very little color mixing today. You can look at the painting and see it, but it's very little compared to normal. There you go. I like that though. It's fun to do something different. Now I'm going to attempt to kind of take some of this highlight and just tap it and get a little bit of a frosty look on just some of these bushes, just to bring, there it is, right? I like that. Just to bring a little more something, an extra texture. I'll do this kind of carefully. I don't want to demolish everything here, but just to bring another texture. Basically the idea there. Yeah, see, it won't hurt to do this, and just like you would any kind of other forest, it gives more individual things and makes it look less plain. See, things can look so plain so quickly. I'm actually adding a little paint to the shop towel at this point, using it kind of like a stamp. Then just adds it. You wouldn't do it to everything, but it just adds a little something to this area. And I'll probably vary that in the painting a little more. Now I still got these blank spots here, and I'll use them to put the trees in. That way I don't have to fight any of that underpainting. It's nice when you're able to plan it out that way. It's not always possible, but because this painting is so simple, it's really not that hard to plan that out. So there, that'll work. That will be fine. Now, make sure if you are going to leave a spot blank, make sure you do get it covered, you know, filled in wide enough where it totally covers that blank spot. Otherwise, it will most certainly look silly. And we'll just go right up into the sky there. Nice. Fairly thick, actually. There we go. That looks pretty good. You know, it's all subject. Well, hopefully it's not very subject to change at this point, but somewhat subject to change. Now I'm going to brush in just a little bit of a highlight, kind of a warm highlight. We've got so much cool colors. The only thing warm is our building, and it's not even that warm. So I'm going to really bring in some warmth here on the trees. Not too much now, because then it would look kind of weird and out of place, but just a little. And there you go. Then some on this one. You see how I've got my brush like this so that I have a better time layering, because this is fairly thick and I've not wiped the trees off. They're just full thickness there, which is fine. They will be fine. There's my color right there. I ran out of yellow ochre. Rather than squeezing some more out, I just mixed up. You can mix a yellow ochre, you know, very similar with burnt umber and your yellow and red. There we go. Just add in a little bit of this. Not too much, just here and there. And I'll finish off with some brighter white highlights for snow and whatnot. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually going to work in some green here. A little green, kind of a bluish green mixed up on my palette. Not too bright, but yet I can still see it. And what this is going to do, hopefully, is just add that surprise, that boom, realism to the painting. Because even in the dead of winter, under these bushy type things, you're going to see evergreen leaves. And certainly up here in these evergreen trees, they are somewhat green, not totally blue, although that can be artistically very pretty just to leave them blue. But I'm going to sneak in a little bit of green, not much. And this is done only as an afterthought in the dark areas. I don't want a bunch of green on top of my snow. That's just no reason for that. And furthermore, this painting has really no yellow in the snow whatsoever. If you had yellow highlights, then this could actually get kind of weird if you accidentally went up it. But it's fairly safe as it is. It'll just kind of look like a greenish highlight if you did accidentally get up too far. But anyway, so I'm just gonna stack in a little bit of more detail here to these bushes. I like that. It's subtle, but it's those little things that you do at the end that really bring your painting to the next level. Now I'm going to put the final touches here on this painting here with some liner brush details. I like to do most of my branches with the liner brush. What that does is it allows me to not get a whole bunch of really fat limbs way too far out. So I'll typically just start my limbs, as you see I've done here, and then just bring out the branches with the liner brush. Look how they push that little cabin or shed back. Isn't that neat? Also, I don't know, I like that. I like the way that looks there with the door open. Just something a little different, isn't it? It's just kind of neat. You can add a lot more of these branches down here if you want to, little ones. They don't have to all be up in the trees. You can have them growing out from the base of the trees as well, rather than just up in the limbs. I think that's really kind of nice. And it adds just some busyness in a good way, in a very good way. I think so often we lack busyness in our paintings. And busyness, well, I don't want my painting to be too busy. No, what you really don't want your painting to do is be too repetitive. It's rather hard to make a painting look too busy. It's rather easy to make a painting look too repetitive. So definitely watch for that. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. That helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.